Hogwarts Legacy has arrived, and we've already done a video doing a complete beginner's guide to the game. And today's video will actually be something a little bit similar, but instead it'll be 10 tips for beginners in Hogwarts Legacy. By following these 10 tips, you'll make the game a much more enjoyable experience and be generally being more productive in the game and leading to more success within Hogwarts Legacy. It's also worth noting that these tips won't necessarily all be for beginners. Some of these you could take on board later in the game and they'll still have a great effect. But of course, since the game is very new, most people are pretty much beginners in the game, so I have no doubts that all of these tips will help you. So yeah, less of a beginner's guide, but in a way it is still a beginner's guide since we are doing 10 beginner tips. And let's waste no more time and let's get straight into these tips. So tip number 1 is to spend time in the character customization scene. You'll be controlling your character for the entire game, and it's important that you like your character and that you at least, like how it looks. If you aren't a fan of how your character looks, then you're not going to necessarily enjoy the game as much. There are loads and loads and loads of different character customization options that you can pick between, and at the very least, at least pick one of the avatars that you like the most, and then you can just leave it there. But I would definitely say spend some time in this character customization scene, particularly in the last section when it comes to customizing your voice. You want to make sure that you're happy with how your voice sounds, since your character actually does have a decent amount of dialogue. So yeah, you don't want to be having a character that you don't like the sound of, since you're going to be having to hearing that throughout the entire game. So definitely make sure you're happy with the voice and somewhat happy with how the character looks. Like I said, you don't have to spend all the time here if you don't want to, but I think it is a good idea to spend as much time here as you can. Especially since, as far as we know, you're only able to customize your actual character once. Of course, you can customize the clothing and everything like that later down the line, but the actual character, you only get the one chance unless you want to start a completely new save. So yeah, definitely spend some time there. So now we are on to the second tip. This is to spend time picking your house. Early on within Hogwarts Legacy, of course, you get the option to pick the house you want to join. Now, interestingly, you actually get a recommended option. First of all, the sorting hat will actually ask you some questions and you get the option to answer these, and it will then recommend a house for you. For example, for me, it recommended Ravenclaw, and Ravenclaw was actually the house that I planned on joining, so that works pretty well. I just went ahead and I picked that house. But of course, the house it recommends might not be the one you want to pick. For example, it might recommend Gryffindor after the questions that you've answered, but you want to go ahead and join Slytherin, so you do actually get the option to do that. You don't have to join the recommended house. You can actually go ahead and pick one of the 4 options that you get out of the 4 standard houses within the game. But of course, if you want to keep it more realistic in a way, then of course you can go for the house it recommends. If you want to stay sort of close to how Harry Potter works, where of course it was randomized and you didn't get to choose. So yeah, definitely make sure that you join the house you want to, since it will have a decent amount of an effect on the game, especially with your common room. So the third tip is to get to know all of the characters that you can. Of course, throughout the story you're going to meet new characters, and that's a given. You're going to have to interact with other characters. However, during the free roam and just generally when you're exploring your common room, especially at the beginning of the game, I would talk to as many characters as you possibly can. Now, some missions will require you to talk to certain characters like I mentioned, and you do actually have to do that a bit in the common room, but I would talk to as many as you possibly can, since this could unlock new side quests, and yeah, it will unlock more content in the game, and also will generally just lead to more success. You're able to maybe possibly reach a higher level within the game, and yeah, you'll just be able to access more content and more missions, which obviously is a better thing. So definitely make sure that you are speaking to as many characters as you possibly can within the game, and yeah, that's just something I would recommend doing. Tip number 4 is to take the missions seriously. This might be a bit of a dumb one maybe, since you might already be doing that, but I would definitely make sure that you are making sure that you're winning all the competitions within the missions and generally just having good interactions with the characters, as this is probably the better thing to do. Of course, if you want to be a bit more evil, or maybe you want to go for a slightly different playthrough, then you're not going to do that. But I would just recommend, if you want the best playthrough possible, then making sure that you're doing the best you can within the missions, whether that's in combat or whether it's competing against other students, because obviously you want to strive for the best really within this game. So yeah, definitely make sure that you're doing the best you can within the missions. Tip number 5 is to complete Merlin trials. Later in the game, you'll get access to these Merlin trials after talking to an old lady. Now, these Merlin trials are small puzzles within the game that will lead to you being given an increased gear capacity, which is pretty useful, and well, very useful actually, and these are all around the map, so make sure when you do come across Merlin trials once you've unlocked the quest that you are completing those, since that is definitely for the best, since you will be getting a higher gear capacity, which is always going to be useful, especially later on in the game when you have more and more gear. Tip number 6 is to complete the challenges within the game. Do make sure that you are completing these challenges, since you are rewarded with very good items. For example, you may be rewarded with certain clothing for completing certain challenges, so make sure you go to the challenges section in the menu and that you are trying to complete those challenges where possible. You may be able to complete some of them within the missions and generally just sort of mix them with other content. Just make sure that you're getting some of those done, since you can get some pretty cool rewards for doing so. So yeah, definitely make sure that you aren't sleeping on the challenges. Tip number 7 is to frequently check your outpost. Your outpost is where different companions within the game with different characters will send you letters via an owl, which will then obviously arrive arrive to you. And you want to make sure you're frequently checking this outpost because some of these letters, by reading these letters, will unlock new quests within the game. So definitely make sure that you're reading all the letters through the outpost, since you might actually unlock some new quests. Of course, you don't actually have to read the letter necessarily, but just make sure that you're actually opening the letter so it will unlock a new quest within the game, which of course at the end of the day is one of the things you're going to want in this game, is more and more quests. So yeah, you're going to be getting more quests leading to more rewards in the game by checking the letters in the outpost, since a lot of them will actually arrive with new quests. Tip number 8 is to spend time customizing your wand. Early on in the game, when you visit Hogsmeade, you get to get your first wand, and you want to spend time customizing this. You do get customization options when you are picking your wand, and yeah, I would definitely spend time in this, since most of this is completely free, so definitely make sure that you spend time customizing your wand, making it look like something that you would like to use. This wand is of course going to be used a lot, so definitely make sure that you like the look of it, since you're going to be using it for a long time, so definitely make sure, yeah, that you spend time customizing your wand. There's no time limit here, and there's no limitations here. Just spend as much time as you need customizing this. I personally spent quite a while just looking through all of the different options and seeing what I like the most. There's some pretty cool customization options when it comes to picking your wand, so definitely make sure that you are spending as much time here as you need. Tip number 9 is to save money early on in the game. Early on in the game, there's going to be lots of different options that you get to purchase, lots of different customization options specifically, really, and make sure that you aren't going for these. Chances are you're not going to be able to afford most of it, but if you can, then I wouldn't recommend doing this, since later on there's going to be much better things to be able to purchase, so definitely hold off at the beginning. Eventually, you do get the option to customize your broom, so definitely I would say that is something that you want to aim towards, and not being able to do this when it does come to that time is going to be a little bit disappointing. So I would definitely save up your money to that point, and then, you know, that is when I would say that you're sort of at the point where you can start spending your money on stuff that you want to purchase within the game. So I would definitely say that once you do reach the point of being able to customize your broom is a point where you can start looking to spend your money, but until then I would definitely try to save as much as possible. Of course, there might be a few things that you absolutely love the look of and you want to purchase, then of course go ahead and do that. I'm not going to say don't purchase that, definitely do that, but if, you know, there's a few things that you think, oh, should I purchase that, I would hold off for a bit and wait until you do have the option to customize your broom, since you're definitely going to want to do that. So I would wait until about then, and then I would go ahead and purchase whatever you want really from that point. So now we are on to the final tip, tip number 10, and I would say is just to spend time exploring the world of Hogwarts. The Hogwarts world certainly isn't small, so definitely spend as much time as you can exploring this world, particularly since you're going to unlock certain side quests by exploring the world and meeting certain characters. So anytime you come across something, definitely interact with it, since it could lead to more quests and more content within the game. And since it's a story game, you know, the more content the better in my opinion. So yeah, definitely take your time, enjoy the world around you, and explore what there is to offer within the world of Hogwarts. That's something I would definitely recommend doing in any open world game, and particularly in Hogwarts Legacy. So there we go, those are 10 tips that you should take on board when you do play Hogwarts Legacy. If you do have any other tips that you think that other players should know, then put them down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to take a look at those, since maybe I should take them on board as well. So yeah, definitely put some other tips down in the comments if you've got any. Now, like I said, I have actually done a complete beginner's guide to the game, and if you are interested in watching that, then a link to that video is on the screen now. So if you think that would be helpful, then go ahead and join me over there.